I can. I can pretend. Or not. Okay, before we get started with tonight's content, is any questions lingering from last week? It looks like a few of you got your trailers in, your Animoto trailers. It was just kind of an assignment just to show you the power of throwing something together quickly on a tool like Animoto. I know it costs money to do something longer than 30 seconds or a minute, and they put the watermark over your stuff and all that. But just to get the idea that you can use these quick and easy little tools to create a trailer to just engage students, pull them in really quickly, and then they can do the same thing. They can, you can flip that around and have students create all kinds of different things, 30 seconds, a minute long, that show their understanding of some important elements of an event or a concept. So since we met last, you guys have turned in your biography / digital storytelling project. I've been looking through those. Those look pretty good. You should, in your APU email, have an email from NGrade, which is the online grading book I'm using. I wanted to use a different one, but it went wonky on me. So that is a technical term in technology, wonky. So I just went with NGrade. Hopefully that works out for you. If you after class tonight, if you want to check the link that was sent to your APU email from NGrade, and check and make sure that it has grades in there. For most of you, I've graded up to the assignment that I mentioned, the digital storytelling biography assignment. So, sorry, I can hear a little feedback, and it's kind of making me stutter a little bit here. And so, for some of you won't have that one yet. I'll finish grading those this evening or tomorrow. And so you should have an up-to-date grade in NGrade. If there's anything wrong with that, then send me an email or a message in the community, and we'll take care of that. Okay, so tonight we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about sound, and more specifically soundtracks. And we're going to goof around a little bit. I'm going to goof around a little bit in GarageBand as much as I can, because it's also a little wonky when I try and project through my computer the GarageBand from my iPad, and that's pretty much what I'm going to be using. So you'll have an opportunity to see that, but it won't necessarily look super, and the sound might kind of be choppy. So that's all the issues that we might have tonight. So as we're talking about sound tonight, just kind of breaking down the word audience, and the central element of the word audience is odd or sound. Okay, and so we really want to kind of focus on what our audience, in this case our students or other teachers, hear as well as what they see. Okay, and unfortunately for some of us who don't think we have the nicest voices in the world, a lot of what they're going to hear in a video that we create is going to be us, our voice. And so we want to augment that and add to it as much as we can with something in the background, and that's where kind of soundtracks come in. I always like this clip from the movie August Rush that really highlights the sounds of the city in this case, but the way that sound is used in this movie, especially in this clip, is really fantastic. Hopefully it plays well through my computer. Let's see. Okay, so that idea of sound playing a huge role in creating a lot of what you see in a film is super important. Now, I showed that video, it was about 1:34. Did it all go through? Did the sound match up? Was it real choppy for you on your end?
That's good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, good.
So, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, I showed you a couple of different clips. One of them being a re-edit of Mary Poppins to make a trailer that had Mary Poppins as super scary, and a big part of that trailer and creating the mood that was in that trailer was the music that went along with it. So if you want to refresh on that, you can go back to Week 5's webpage and check out that Mary Poppins trailer. But the idea of infusing some sort of music behind your titles and behind your voice, a lot of times, if you watch anything on the Food Network, any of those cooking shows, any of like the home shows on HGTV, it is usually a soundtrack that backs just about everything. Okay, even when you don't even sense it being there, it's usually there, turned down real low behind the person that's speaking, behind the hosts speaking. And so on the page here, there's 3 different tutorials. One for GarageBand for Mac, that's this first one here. The second one down is GarageBand for iOS, for your iPad. And the third one is for a piece of software called Audacity, which you can download for free to your Mac or PC. But if, my hope is that you'll either be utilizing GarageBand for your Mac or GarageBand for your iPad. And GarageBand for the iPad is what I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit today. And so to that end, let me go ahead and grab my iPad there. Can you all see my iPad screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So the app that I'm gonna be using for the iPad, and I'm not sure now if it's free or if it's $2.99 or if it's $4.99, but the app I'm gonna be using is GarageBand. Got the little guitar on it. And once you get past, yikes. Once you get past the gosh, my mic is capturing my voice here. That's weird. Once you get past how challenging the iPad can be to use, as far as GarageBand is concerned. Sorry, my voice was coming out of my iPad there real quick, and it was a little weird to talk and listen to your voice half a second later. Okay. So let's go ahead and open up GarageBand. So GarageBand can be a little intimidating when you first open it up because you're not really sure where to go and what to do. Okay, and so the to start a sorry, that's why I'm so choppy. To start a new song in GarageBand, as far as anything goes in the iPad suite, right? You always want to look for the plus sign, okay? And in this case, the plus sign when you open up GarageBand is in the top left corner, okay? And what we're looking for when we open up GarageBand here, and then we press that plus button, is something more than what you're seeing on your screen. Give me another sec here. Maybe this is not destined to happen for us tonight. Let's see. Okay, what you wind up seeing with the iPad when you open up GarageBand is this, and you'll see that it gives you some different options. Can I get you all to mute your microphones, please? We get these different smart instruments. We get smart drums, smart strings, smart bass, smart keyboard, smart guitar. We get a keyboard, we get drums, we get a guitar amp, we get an audio recorder, we get a sampler. There's a lot of different options here. And you know, if you're musically inclined, if you have the opportunity to really dive into all these different tools, this app, GarageBand, is pretty phenomenal. My son plays a bunch of different musical instruments. He's always plugging into GarageBand and creating something. So he plays his guitar and banjo right into it, and then backs it with drums and all kinds of different things. I'm going to go ahead and start with smart drums, just as a place to open up and start. One of the things, though, is it'll probably pop up in a couple seconds when you're using GarageBand and you're using the app that I'm using to broadcast it on my screen. They don't like each other. It takes a little too much processing to go from one to the other, and it'll probably say something to the effect of, you know, it's going to be choppy playback, or the playback's going to be funky. But this is the smart drum section, and I'm just going to jump right out of here. You can, if you want to invest further into GarageBand for iOS, there's a lot of cool things about it. Like I said, I really play around with these smart instruments. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this button up here, and this button, if I click on my little I am going to select this option right here, which allows me to look at the actual tracks. Okay, I jump from this smart drum option right here over to just the individual timeline. And so this timeline is something that is somewhat familiar to us because we saw it last week in iMovie, or 2 weeks ago in iMovie. And so what we have here is basically a timeline. And you can create a lot of your own beats and a lot of your own rhythms with all these different smart instruments. But what I want to share with you tonight is the utilization of loops and tracks. And the loops are found right here under that little loop. So if I press on that, it's going to open up for me this section of Apple Loops. And when I look at Apple Loops, I can start looking at looped looped pieces of music from all of these different instruments. So let's say I wanted to start with a drum kit. I wanted to start with a backing drum. Okay. Let me go back real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, I pressed here on kits. And when I press on kits, it's going to give me a bunch of different options down here for a backbeat of drum. And you can see that it gives me the name of it, the name of the loop. In this case would be Bar Band Basic Drum Set 2, and it's 1 bar long. So I can click on that and listen to what that sounds like. So it's a basic loop that just keeps going over and over again. And it's 1 bar long. If I wanted to look at something like Bar Band Basic Drum Set 6, right here, I can see that's 2 bars long. Okay, so that might be something that I want to use. Okay, I like the way that sounds. So I'm just going to click and hold it, and you can see now, and when I drag it over into my timeline, it then populates my timeline with, right over here, a drum, okay, that is 2 bars long. So you can see here, there's 1 bar, there's 2 bars, and you can see that it fills up that entire spot. You can see it because it kind of, and I'll zoom in on it for you here. See how it kind of rounds up right here? 2-bar section of that loop. And there's another one, and there's 3 of them. Okay, like iMovie, I can click on the handlebars here, and I can move it out, although it didn't show that I was doing that on my screen. Okay, there it is. So I can press on that outside bar, and I can shrink it down to as small as I want, or I can draw it out as long as I want. Okay, in this case, I've got it out to 8 bars. So I've got this basic drum backing for 8 bars. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. The one thing it does when I play it is it has all of these, when you create a new song inside of in GarageBand, it automatically installs a metronome in the background, which can be kind of discerning. So it sounded like someone was hitting, like a baklava or something like that. One of those square box. Tatum probably knows the official term. What are those called? Little wooden box that you hit with a stick.
Are you thinking of clavis?
Clavis. Thank you. I said baklava, which is like a dessert. Or baklava, which is a
Yeah.
I was close though.
Yeah.
All right, so if I want that metronome to go away, which I do, there is a little wrench up here on top. That little wrench right there. And if I click on the wrench, you can see here that I have the opportunity to make the metronome go away, which I'm going to do. Okay, because it makes me think that there's a wooden block in there being hit. Okay, so I have my drums. And now I want to look for another instrument to join my drums. Okay, and so I would like to maybe have some strings. So I'm going to go ahead and press strings. And I'm going to find something here. Let's see. That might be a little dramatic for what I want to do. Let's see, orchestra strings. Maybe still a little too dramatic. Okay, let's go with that one. Okay, so I dropped that in there, and now I have not only my drums, but I have some strings to accompany them. Let me real quick, I'm going to quit out of my Reflector app real quick and then get it back because it's starting to lag on me a little bit. Yeah, see, there's my little alert using AirPlay. You may notice a delay when playing touch instruments or playing back your song, which I am noticing. But I'm going to go ahead and see what my drums and strings sound like together. Okay, and so it's basically just playing that loop over again 4 times. And both of them, both the strings and the drums are 2 bars each. And the big pressure here is doing all this in front of Tatum, who's a music teacher. So I'm probably using all kinds of wonky terminology. And apparently wonky is my word of the night. So don't judge, is what I'm saying. So I have drums, I have strings, and now let me find something else to drop in here just to kind of finish it off. Maybe a little flute. Oh, there we go. I like that. So we can start playing around a little bit with our music. And so let's say that I just want the flute to come in at a couple of different points. I'm going to shorten that clip up, and I'm going to move it so that it doesn't necessarily start off at the beginning, but the flute comes in after 2 bars. So let's see how that sounds. A little funky. Maybe I don't want it that soon. Maybe I want 4 bars before that flute comes in, and I'm not sure I like it anyway, but we're just going to keep it in there just for the sake of keeping this going. And maybe I want to stretch that out to a couple of bars there. So the last thing I'm going to do is come in and bring in maybe a little shaker action. We're going to get some maracas in here. Let's go big maracas 5. Sounds beautiful. And there's nothing in the world that maracas can't make a little better. So let's hear our final output now. Okay, so let's say that maybe I want to turn the strings down a little bit. Maybe they're a little too loud and I want them to be in the background a little bit. You can see right here there's a little handle on this gray bar that shows us all the different instruments. Okay, if I pull on that gray bar, I can open it up a little bit, and it gives me the ability here to deal with some volume issues. So let's say that I want to turn those drums down a little bit, and I want to turn those strings down a little bit, and maybe I want to put my shakers up a little bit. Maybe that's too low for the strings. And now I can kind of bring my scrubber back here, and I can play it and see if that sounds a little better to my ear. Okay, so I think I like that. I mean, I wouldn't listen to it on my phone when I'm driving to work, but for what I want to use it for, which in this case is a soundtrack to my next video, something to lead in a title with, and then something to kind of maybe carry in the background a little bit. Okay, this might be what I open up my next video with, and this is what I'm basically going to be asking you to do, is to create just a little soundtrack, okay, a little soundtrack for your video. And so what I'm going to do next, let's say I'm pleased with this, and this is my final output. Okay, I am going to send it now to iMovie, which is really cool. I mean, in iOS, GarageBand and iMovie are part of a suite of tools. In this case, they call the suite iLife. That's what Matt calls it. And so I'm going to go ahead now that I'm finished with my little composition here. I'm going to click on My Songs. Okay, and you can see now it's joined this other group of music here. There's another group of output that I've created, and I am going to then press on the actual little thumbnail icon here until it starts shaking. All right, and I am going to then press on the title. I'm going to give it a title. So I'm going to call it, in this case, Introduction. So that's my introduction. And then I'm going to use the universal iOS symbol for sending something to somewhere else, which is this little rectangle with an arrow shooting out of it. So when I press on that, it's going to give me some options. I can send this to a few different places. I can send it via email. I can send it to Facebook. I can send it to SoundCloud, which is it's like YouTube for music. Or I can send it to YouTube. I don't want to send it to any of those places. Nor do I want to send it to iTunes or make it a ringtone. I'm going to open it up in another application. So I am going to click on that option. And it's going to take me to this screen, which is going to give me some opportunities to change the quality. For what we're doing, medium quality is just fine. So with medium quality checked, I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to press Share. And it's going to export this song. And then it's going to give me some options as to where I send it, depending on which apps I have on my device. Okay, I can send it to my Google Drive if I want to, which is cool, or my Dropbox. In this case, since we're going to be using it as an introduction to our next video project, I want to open it in iMovie. And so automatically my iPad will open up iMovie. And it'll give me some options. To select a project. I can open up a project that I've already created, or I can create a new movie. In this case, that's what I'm going to do, because we're starting fresh here. I'm going to create a new movie. And you can see that it has automatically popped that music. Okay, we were familiar with this iMovie interface from 2 weeks ago. So it's already put in my music. So I'm just going to go ahead, even though there's no video in here, and I'm going to press play. And we can see that sound clip is 17.5 seconds long. It tells me that right there. Okay, 17 and a half seconds of audio. And so I can decide at this point, and I think that that's kind of what I want to shoot for the length of my introduction. Okay, the length of my introduction can be the same length as that sound clip, because kind of created that sound clip as something that kind of lives on its own. So I'm gonna go ahead and develop a introduction to my video that's going to be that long. Okay, so I'm going to zap back real quick to this week's page, and I want to look at this week's assignment, which is going to be a 5-step instructional video. Right? In this video, and I'm just reading from the webpage, you'll have the opportunity to teach the class a skill of your choice in 5 steps. This is a good opportunity to use the skills that you've been learning in class with a focus this week on developing distinctive audio effects and soundtrack music. So these are the elements that your project needs. It needs 5 clearly defined steps. Okay, so whatever it is that you're going to be teaching needs to have 5 steps, and those steps need to be defined. And the way that we define things in video is really through titles, and so that's the next step there. There's going to be a title introducing each of the 5 steps. If you're doing some sort of a recipe or showing someone how to do something that requires supplies, then I want to see a list of ingredients or supplies, and I'll show you what that looks like. You want consistent transitions when moving between steps, so that the transitions look the same kind of throughout your video. It was funny. I was at a Google Summit over the weekend. It was at Coronado High School, and there was a guy that was presenting. He was from some sort of an online classroom security company. He was one of the sponsors of the event, and he showed this I don't know, 5 or so minute presentation. And in between each of his slides, he used Keynote, which is if you've never used Keynote before, it's like PowerPoint or Google Slides for the Mac. So it's a Macintosh application for their computers and for iOS. That's presentation software. And in between each of his slides, he had a different transition. And it was like, for me personally, super disconcerting. I mean, it took me out of the element, even, like I wasn't going to fall out of a sales pitch element anyway. But the fact that he had used a different transition in between each slide, so it's like he used every single transition that Keynote had. It's distracting. Okay, so you definitely don't want to distract from your from the instructional video that you're presenting. So, I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when we met. That idea of consistent transitions is a big one. So, if you're doing a cross dissolve, then you want every transition to be a cross dissolve. If you're doing a fade to black and fade in from black, you want every transition to be like that. Okay, unless you're trying to say something through your transition. And the good thing about iMovie for your iPad is there aren't really a ton of transitions that are available. But if you're using iMovie for the Mac, there's a bunch. Okay, so consistent transitions when moving between steps. You're going to want a variety of shot types. Okay, we've talked over and over about shot types. Looking through the rough cut of your door videos. Okay, you guys are on it with the shot types. Okay, I love watching those. Some really cool and creativity. And even though it was a rough cut, a couple of you threw in some sound effects and some music behind it. So those little touches were totally appreciated. But you guys absolutely have your shot types down. Appropriate lighting. Okay, if you're showing somebody how to do something, and you actually are filming yourself or somebody else doing it, you want to make sure that you can see everything that's going on, because not only the main reason for doing it in video is so that you can actually show people while you're telling them how to do something. Clear voiceover audio. Okay, that's huge, right? You want people to be able to hear you, right? And so there's, if you're doing it all on your iPad, the iPad microphone is perfect for doing that. If you're doing it on your laptop, usually the laptop microphone is great for doing that. Okay? And then soundtrack audio. And I have here extra special brownie points if you create it yourself. I really want to encourage you to do that. Okay? If you absolutely positively have zero skill and you hate everything that you try and create on your own in GarageBand, there are a couple of websites up here where you can get free music. Okay, this one, Free Play Music, is a good one. It's freeplaymusic.com, and it usually costs money to buy this music. But if you're doing it for education, you get it all for free. So they've got the best educator discount I've ever seen, free. All right. Okay, your video should be between 3 and 5 minutes, and I just have this message. This will be the most complex video up to this point. It's a good idea to spend time writing out your script, storyboarding your ideas, make yourself a shot list before you start shooting to help keep things organized. These steps will also make the editing process easier as well, because you'll have a written plan of how all the shots and titles fit back together to make a finished product. That being said, you're not going to be graded on your pre-production. Okay, that's my best suggestion. That's my best hope, is that you'll plan it out beforehand, but I'm not requiring that you turn in a storyboard or a script for this project. And so that being said, I've got a few different examples of different videos here that prior students have created. I'm just going to share one with you right now, just to give you some insight and some ideas, some thoughts, and I just want to kind of discuss elements of the video. So I'll be stopping it multiple times. Okay, so it's about making biscuits.
Welcome to Tom's Kitchen. We have a special guest today. My Coach Lomax has invited us into his kitchen as he creates one of his Southern breakfast favorites, buttermilk biscuits. Yum. Coach has guaranteed me that this simple recipe will replace any old biscuit recipe that you've been dusting off. What do you say, Coach? Show us how it's done.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, so kind of a cute little intro there. He just used a free app from the iPad. It's like Talking Tomcat. And so, that was just a touch that he threw in. That's not something you have to do or anything like that, but, just a touch. So when I mentioned above that if you're going to be doing some sort of a recipe that you list the ingredients, this is a good example of what that looks like.
Let's begin with the standard biscuit ingredients. 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, a half teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of table salt, 1 cup of cold buttermilk, and 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now, I had avoided making biscuits for a long time because I thought they were difficult. So before I started, I called the expert, famed Southern chef Somerville Connor. Somerville, is there any easy way to make biscuits?
No.
Can I just melt the butter?
No.
Well, what about adding things? Can I do that?
No.
I think we've upset her. Well, I decided to experiment anyway. So I got some of my closest friends together, and batch after batch of biscuits, we set out to find the perfect recipe. Until I finally stumbled on a solution to my problem. Finally, simple biscuits with a down south flavor and texture. Step 1. Let's begin by melting the butter.
Okay, so all that element that he put in there, that was just his flair. And honestly, this dude he's a football coach. So this is the first time he'd be created videos, and so he was really grabbing onto it and doing all kinds of funny stuff with it. So, but the idea of announcing each one of your steps, okay? We need some sort of a slide, some sort of a title that tells us that this is step 1.
Let's begin by melting the butter. I know this seems like the biggest no-no, but stay with me. I'll explain later. Also, we can set our oven to 475 degrees so it can warm up. Step 2. Combine all the dry ingredients in a bowl. If you plan to add anything in, now will be the time to do it. Whether it be bacon or chives or cinnamon. Today we'll use cheddar cheese and chives.
Okay, so during the time where he was pouring all the ingredients in there, sped it up a little bit. We saw 2 weeks ago that in iMovie it's the rabbit. You move the dial closer to the rabbit to speed it up, closer to the turtle to slow it down. So he went rabbit on that one.
Once you've added those items, go ahead and stir to combine, and let's get ready to add our wet ingredients. Step 3. Remember that butter we melted? Now we're going to combine it with cold buttermilk. Now here's where the magic happens. A good southern buttermilk biscuit gets its texture and flavor from the rich, tangy buttermilk and the taste of smooth butter in every bite. It's normally created by cutting cold butter into flour or using a food processor. Well, not anymore. By combining the melted butter with the really cold buttermilk, you're able to capture the butter in small cases between the cold liquid and the buttermilk.
So, what we have there a little bit
Small cases between the
is he was recording this in his school in the gym office in the gym where he worked at Mira Mesa High School, and so while he's recording it, we've got like all of a sudden loud music coming from the background.
You're able to capture the butter in small cases between the cold liquid and the buttermilk.
Okay, and so that would be something under the idea of clear voiceover audio, making sure that you're kind of in a place where you're not going to get a lot of distractions. Okay. And also, it's kind of happened on its own. I haven't, it's been just kind of there in the background, but not really super noticeable. But the music that led off his video, kind of little guitar riff, which is just a loop from GarageBand, just kind of there in the background the whole time.
Melted butter seizes up, it forms globules that are just the right size. Now when I combine it with the flour, it creates the same effect as cutting the cold butter into the flour before it does. A little culinary chemistry. Step 4. Now mix the liquid into the dry ingredients and you have a perfect biscuit batter. Step 5. Cut or scoop the biscuits onto a parchment-lined baking sheet and place them in the oven to bake. Bake them until the tops are golden and crispy, which will take about 12 to 15 minutes. I have an added treat for you. While we're waiting on the biscuits to bake, let's fire up some sausage gravy. Here's what you'll need. A pound of sausage, 2 cups of liquid, either milk or cream.
Okay, so you guys get the sense, okay? Up here is one on MLA format, shot with an iPhone, so it's kind of the actual view of it, and I'll kind of mute it here. So use the same formatting as Phil did down there, but
Here to help explain format.
kind of dropped in video from an iPhone. And if you're going to use your phone for video, you want to make sure that you are not holding it in portrait mode, but in landscape mode, so that your video fills the screen. Otherwise, you are going to end up with this obelisk in the middle of blackness on either side. So you want to make sure that your video, when you're shooting video if you're using your phone, that it is on its side and not standing straight up. Okay, and then this was another student who did his video on riding a mountain bike over berms. So
Commit to the turn. The key to committing to a turn is to break into the turn or after the turn.
okay, one thing that he didn't do was he didn't put any music in, and there's a huge difference in feeling between videos that have music behind them and those that don't. And so you can see here, this one kind of just sounds like it's missing something.
5 steps to slaying berms. Step 1. Commit to the turn. The key to committing to a turn is to break into the turn or after the turn. You want to try to avoid braking during the turn. Step 2. Get aggressive. Getting aggressive means getting your weight over the front tire, keeping your arms bent, your knees bent, and keeping your body centered over the bike. The key is also to stay loose and balanced.
Okay, so there's a lot of things as far as editing is concerned going on here that's pretty awesome. Okay, and that's why I like using this one as an example. Number one is he's utilized over here in his first step, utilized a freeze frame in a pretty cool way, right? So it starts with video, and then he freezes the frame, and then uses the Ken Burns the Ken Burns feature on the freeze frame to kind of zoom into himself. So it's actually kind of a pretty neat effect here. You pay attention to it. He freezes there, and then the Ken Burns effect kind of brings him up closer to us while it's frozen. Makes kind of a neat effect. And as you're watching it, you'll see that he's not using a standard transition. He's using one that's kind of a little flashy that kind of shoots in and shoots out. But since it's consistent throughout, and here's a nice slow-mo, so where Phil in the recipe one sped it up, he here is slowing it down. And so that transition that he's using is, it's a kind of a gaudy transition, but for what he's doing here, the whole mountain biking thing, it really fits, and it's consistent throughout. Okay, again, there's the freeze frame and the Ken Burns effect, which looks pretty cool. And then there's that you're going to see that transition kind of shooting in and going out. Okay, so just kind of utilizing these to give you some ideas and some ways that you might be able to manipulate your 5-step video. Okay, that's why I put those in here. So let's go back to our iPad real quick, just to kind of take a look at developing some of the features that we saw there. Before I go any further, do I have any questions on? It's like we're back to this, me talking, you listening, and not interacting much like we did when we were face to face a couple weeks ago. We're all good?
Sorry.
Okay.
Did you figure out how to do the reverse play on iPad?
What's that?
Did we ever figure out how to do the reverse play on iPad, like reversing the video?
I don't remember if we did or not. It's been a long couple of weeks, so before we leave tonight, we will. All right, so I have this 17.5 second intro music that I want to drop a couple titles on top of to introduce my video. This process is pretty easy in iMovie for the Mac because they have all kinds of different themes in there, and creating titles is pretty easy. It's a little more of a challenge on the iPad because there's not a whole lot. There's not really any backgrounds and things like that to work with unless you start with a theme. So I'm just going to go through just a real quick tutorial on creating on the iPad an introductory mount like this. So I'm going to go ahead and start by going up to Photos, and I'm going to go to my camera roll, and you want to have on your camera roll some sort of a background. And so I just have the background that I used for the background of my iPad. It's kind of a brick wall, okay? And what iMovie will do here is you can see that it's basically shortened because it brings in my photographs at a 6-second clip. You can see here that it's shortened my introduction music to 6 seconds. Okay, because it's automatically going to default to the length of the clip that it brings in. So there's a couple ways I can deal with this, but the main way that I'm going to do it here is I'm going to duplicate, and then I'm going to make it, what was it, 17.5. So I'm kind of going to cut 17.5 in half. Which is, if I do my math correctly, it'll be 42 seconds per clip, right? I'm not good at math, sorry. It will be 16, 8.5, 8.75. So I want to make, in this case, maybe 9 seconds here. Oh, sorry. I'll just kind of guesstimate. I kind of want it to be 2 clips long, because I'm going to put a title on each one. So shorten you down. Okay, so now I have basically 2 clips of a wall, and because it brings it in with that Ken Burns effect, right? We're kind of traveling up the wall, which is kind of a neat effect. Okay, so I'm going to click on that first clip. And I am going to come down here to title, and I'm going to give it a title. And because I'm just looking to bring in something that is kind of a fun little title, let's look through here, and we'll go with, I'm going to go with this one right here, the little pop-up title. I like that one. I seem to gravitate toward that one all the time. Okay, and so I'm not only going to do that on that clip, but I'm also going to do it on the second clip. So I'm going to put a title on each one. I'm going to make my titles consistent as well. Okay, so when I click on my first clip here, I click to, in order to change my title text, if you'll remember, I just need to click on the title in my screen, and it will allow me to change it. And so I'm going to do something, I still have some of those grilling clips on here. So let's call it grilling, or let's do this. How to fire up your new grill. And then on my next one here, we're going to get rid of that text, and we're going to say in 5 easy steps. Okay, so now when I look at what I have so far, I can go ahead and click play. Believe me, it was good. So because I'm playing my iPad through my computer, it's kind of jaggedy, but you get the sense now that we've got our introduction coming through with our titles. Okay, so let's say now that I'm going to bring in some video. So I'm going to click up here to change from photos to video. And this will be some of the same stuff that I brought in a couple of weeks ago. I don't want you there, buddy. I want you over here on this end, right? So now we have kind of it building in these transitions. And I can always bring in another, or I can just kind of, in this case, if I grab this video clip, I can always, okay, right here, I can create a freeze frame, because I'm just giving you some thoughts and ideas. A freeze frame that'll freeze right on that part right there. And so what I might do here is use that to put a title on. And I might go again with my pop-up title to keep that consistent. And I might, in this case, put in step 1. Okay, so that when I'm playing, all right, so I get just a little freeze frame there that I can bring step 1 into. The one thing I am missing though is my music in the background. Okay, so as I go from and so if I want to continue my music in the background, I can always grab this clip. Okay, you can see my music clip is now highlighted. And I can come down here to these 3 dots. The 3 dots always mean that there's something more there. So if I click on the 3 dots, I can duplicate that track. And I can keep duplicating that track, but the one thing I want to make sure I do is, because I'm going to be talking over this section, okay, over my titles it was fine that the music was as loud as it was, but when I start voicing over all of this stuff about grilling, right, I'm going to want that music to go down. And so I have this slider down here where I can bring the music down, down, down to, let's say, 28%. So that it's back there in the background. I had no idea that thing had that little sound to it. Okay, but I can bring in keep the music there at that lower tone so that I can voice over. And so that's the one now that I want to capture and continue duplicating. And I can just continue duplicating that all the way through my video. Okay, so that's always there. Okay, and so now as it's playing, I can press my little microphone down here, and I can start recording. Grilling is easy. Step one, blah, blah, blah. Move through. And so you can see that the red is filling up here as I'm voicing over. And I've got that music playing in the background. And I can hear it as I talk, so I can kind of get a sense of where I'm going and where, you know, where the process is taking me. I can watch on my iPad the action as I'm narrating and then stop when I'm done. Okay? And I can review this. Grilling's easy. Step one, blah, blah, blah. Move through. And so you can see that the red is filling up here. And so I can hear that, yeah, my voice sounds good over the music. The music's not overpowering. Okay? And I can also, so I'll press accept. And so I can get the transition here from, and I'm going to quit my Reflector app real quick and restart it so that hopefully we can hear it all as one. And it's not all choppy. That's a little rough right there. I would have to tune that up a little bit, but grilling's easy. Blah, 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 blah. So you can see that the red is filling up here as I'm voicing over. So we're getting this sense now. I've got that music playing in the. We're getting this sense now of how we start piecing all this stuff together. Okay? And so, you know, utilizing just your iPad, you know, if you can create this entire video right on your iPad, as long as you're not trying to broadcast it through your Mac over Google Plus Hangouts. You've got like 3 levels of ridiculosity here that are making it so that it's choppy on your end, but on my end it's fine. So, you know, just kind of a very quick, you know, 45-minute or so tutorial on putting together both music and video on your iPad to create this, you know, this hopefully somewhat polished video. Okay, this is you know, we're going to do this week, and then weeks 7 and 8 leading into week 9, you're going to be creating your final video, which is basically bringing in, you know, elements of what we started with, elements of what you did 2 weeks ago with your digital biography or digital storytelling project, and then kind of this step-by-step process. So we're talking about, you know, putting it all together over the last couple of weeks of the course. So you should start getting a sense of what it takes to put together a polished final output. Okay, and we'll kind of see how that starts putting itself together. So over this week, as you're working, and this weekend as you're working on this project, if you have any hiccups or any issues that you're finding that you know, this isn't working or that isn't working, you know, do a little troubleshooting on your own, but don't hesitate if after Googling and not really finding any answers to let us know in the community what's going on. Maybe an email to me if I don't answer right away in the community, to really help you get this thing into a polished state. And if between now and next Wednesday we need to hold another real quick hangout, maybe over the weekend sometime, you know, Sunday afternoon, if we need to do another one of these, you know, a little Google Hangout on air to help and assist in any difficulties that any of you might be having, I'm totally open to that. So, you know, that's kind of where we are this week. So the video should be between 3 and 5 minutes, okay, and it should explain from beginning to end in 5 steps how to do something. Okay, again, I gave you 3 very different examples here: something academic, something you put in your tummy, and something you do to work off the stuff you put in your tummy. So there's you know, the sky's the limit basically on what it is. So if it's something that you have expertise in, go for it. Any questions about the project? Okay, silence is golden.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay.
So I don't know if you covered this, but is there a way to like mute the sound that you get when you're taking a video, and then like voice?
Yeah, you
There's
can.
like is there a way to like remove it, or you just turn it down? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, you
Like
can
if you're putting
separate.
voice,
You can.
you can separate it. Did you go over
Yeah.
that? Sorry if you did.
Yeah, I went over it last week, but I'll go over it again here. 2 weeks. But let's go back to reflector here. All right, so I'm going to just record something really quickly. No, not a. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I'm recording, and copy from what you can see right now, but I'm basically recording something on my iPad here to go right into iMovie. I'm going to use that video. And I probably, okay, good, I didn't lock it up. Okay, so you can see, can you see here that I have a piece of video, and underneath it, it has the waveform, so I have the sound attached to it. If I choose, okay, so when I have this video selected here, you can see down here I have an option for both video and audio. I'm going to go ahead and press audio, and when I press audio, I get two different things. So there's your two options basically for getting rid of the sound in a video clip. Is you can go ahead and just turn it down all the way. You can see here that if I have it at 100%, that all of my waveforms right here pop up. But when I take it all the way down to 0, they all disappear. That's one option. And the other option is to just detach it. So if I press on detach, you can see that it just took that audio right out of the video. And I can use it separately somewhere else if I want to, or while it's selected, I can just hit the trash can down here and delete it. So now that video exists here with no sound. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to look and see if we can reverse video clip in iMovie. Let's write that right. iMovie for iOS. It would be ridiculous if we couldn't do it. This is all. I think when we looked before, it was the iMovie for the Mac. While I'm looking for this, I am going to, because it's going to be kind of tedious. If nobody else cares about this, that is the.
It's okay. I can research it on my own. I was just asking in case somebody else had figured out how to do it.